Hi, I'm Claire and this is the Nanowrimo 2015 tag. If you've not heard of Nanowrimo before, it's an online-based challenge to write a first draft of a brand new novel in the month of November, and the challenge is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. If you'd like to know more about Nanowrimo, I've got a playlist of Nanowrimo videos and vlogs and things like that. And if you have any questions about Nanowrimo, just leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any and all Nanowrimo based questions. So I thought this tag would be a great way to celebrate the return of Nanowrimo, and I'm also really excited because this tag was created by Christina Horner and she was the very first YouTuber that I subscribed to. The first question is, how many times have you done Nanowrimo? And I did my first ever Nanowrimo in November 2008, so this year will be my 8th Nanowrimo. Question 2 is, how did you find out about Nanowrimo? This is a really cool story, I think anyway. I met my first ever flatmate in the UK on couchsurfing. We were both looking for a place in London to live, so we decided to look for a place to rent together, and then she found us a bunch of people to couchsurf with whilst we were flat hunting. And the reason that she selected these two girls is because on their profile they both said Nanowrimo. Amy selected these two girls because they had done Nanowrimo and Amy had done Nanowrimo as well. And at that point, I had no idea what Nanowrimo was, but the first day that we met these girls, we had a super long chat about Harry Potter, massively fangirled together about a lot of things, and became really good friends. And they convinced me to try and do Nanowrimo with them. And I thought, you know, I was a student, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I thought, why not? Question 3 is, what was the name of the first novel you ever attempted to write? Now, the first novel I attempted to write ever was when I was about 14. It was this like epic fantasy thing, or it was supposed to be an epic fantasy thing. I wrote like one chapter of it and it didn't have a title. I got as far as naming characters with like long elven names with apostrophes in them, but I didn't get far enough to get a title. My first ever novel that I wrote that had a title was my first ever Nanowrimo novel from 2008, and that was called Stars Shine Brighter. And I have to say the title was probably the best bit about that particular novel. But I revisited it in, I think, 2011 or 2012 and rewrote a good chunk of it. It's a space opera with elements of mind control, and it's a really cool story that I hope I can get back to at some point. But that very first one in 2008 was just really cringy. Question 4 is, give us a one-sentence summary of what you're planning to write this year. Now, this year I am planning to do an editing challenge instead of a writing challenge because I'm hopefully almost done with the novel I'm writing now, which is called The Paradise Woman, which I've been working on for a long while. But I've got a lot of editing to do on it now. I've got the basic kind of shape of the story and I know what I want it to be like and feel like, and I've been working on it for a long time. My writing has gotten better, so I really just need to go through it and make it kind of like sound a bit more like a book. As far as a one-sentence summary is concerned, this is always very, very difficult. I first kind of conceived the novel as Steampunk Day of the Triffids, although it's morphed more into a Victorian medical mystery that has elements of steampunk but also elements of horror to it. So I'm not sure it's a great one-sentence summary, but it's what I've got so far. Question 5 is, what's the best writing advice you were ever given? That would be just write, and it's like so much easier said than done, but basically the best piece of writing advice for me is just get started, because as soon as you get started it just becomes a little bit easier. I don't love writing first draft at all, but I always worry more about how terrible a writer I am and all that when I'm not writing and when I'm avoiding the work. So if you sit down and get stuck in, I think it becomes a lot easier to just keep doing that. Question 6 is, did you ever take a year off Nanowrimo and why? And nope, I never did. I started in 2008. I really enjoyed my first year, and then me and a friend of mine started organizing a bunch of writing events where people would all meet up in coffee shops and write together. And then after a couple years of that, we applied to be a municipal liaison for London. That's a volunteer that organizes events and things. And so I was an ML for London for, I think, 3 or 4 years. It's been a while anyway. This is going to be my first year as a retired ML. But when I was organizing events, I was very invested in doing NaNoWriMo, and I did not at all want to take a year off. I guess I'm kind of taking a year off this year because I'm doing the editing instead of doing first draft, but at the same time, I'm trying to do 50 hours of editing in the month, and that's gonna be a lot of work in the month, so I'll definitely be in the spirit of NaNoWriMo even if I'm not doing first draft. Question 7 is, what's your biggest inspiration when figuring out what to write? And I don't really have one answer for this. I did a video on how to find ideas for NaNoWriMo last year. Question 7 is, read us the first sentence from one of your novels. And this one is from my current work, which is The Paradise Swarm. And the first sentence is, Lawrence hurried along the narrow, grubby streets of Globetown. And the final question is, why do you love writing? I love stories. I love telling stories, reading stories, creating stories, but for me, the writing part, the sit down at the keyboard and come up with something new, the first draft part, that's the most difficult. And I don't know if it's because I'm still fairly new at it, or if it's something that's just going to keep happening for me as long as I want to write stories. I was at an event recently where Joe Abercrombie was speaking, and he was saying how much he hates writing first drafts, so I guess there are some people for whom it doesn't go away, and it doesn't mean that you can't write a really great story. I've taken heart in that. And that was it. That was the NaNoWriMo tag. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions about NaNoWriMo, let me know in the comments. I would love to do like maybe a NaNoWriMo Q&A or other videos about NaNoWriMo in general. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. And also, please tell me what you're writing this year if you're participating in NaNoWriMo. If you'd like to see more from me, I will link my NaNoWriMo playlist in the sidebar right here. And if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button for more videos from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.